let's talk about Ahsoka here.
So, Ahsoka, for me, when she first came out in the 2008 Clone Wars movie, I hated her. Like, I absolutely hated her. And I think we briefly touched on that last week. She was so arrogant and, like, pushy and, like, Anakin times 10. You know what I mean? Like, you know how Anakin always rebels against, like, Obi-Wan and, like, everyone. And everyone was like, oh, he doesn't listen well. And, like,
Yeah.
Ahsoka was just that times 10. And, like, I get why they put Ahsoka with Anakin. And, like, it all makes sense. But, mind you, I was also
But does it,
9 at this
would you
point.
give the troubled Jedi a troubled student? Or like...
In my eyes, it was like, here, okay, so it wasn't a wise decision, but it was like, you're going to not listen? Here's a taste of your own medicine kind of thing,
Yeah,
right?
you're absolutely right.
So I get that now, if that's what they were going for. But, like, I was like, wow, she's so much to handle. Like, she was calling Anakin Sky Guy and challenging him on virtually everything. And he would be like, Ahsoka, do this. And she would be like, but why? And you're like, what are we doing here? Like, we're just wasting time. Like, this is crazy. And now she's one of my favorite characters. Like, I absolutely love that character. And I think in film shows, I think that's one of the best character arcs that's ever come out, is being someone so hated by everybody to so loved by everybody now, because she went from being that, like, super arrogant kid to who she is now, who's a super calm, collected, Ronin style Jedi, you know, like, and I very much like that.
I didn't, so I still haven't seen fully the Clone Wars movie all the way through, but I did watch the TV series, so I kind of got thrown into it where, like, like, she is the apprentice, but I didn't get the introduction really, and there were some later episodes that kind of, like, showed her coming to the Jedi. I think Plo Koon finds her.
Yes.
And yeah, I didn't really have a use for her. I actually felt that some of her episodes in the earlier seasons were some of the weaker ones.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I wanted to focus on, like, the clones and, like,
Yeah.
the Jedis and, like, the battles and stuff. And, like, some of her side stories, like, maybe didn't quite do it for me. Character design and stuff, like, I thought it was super weird. Like, I knew that she was a younger person, but, like, the outfit, which has since been retconned.
Has it really?
Yeah. So, because in Tales of the Jedi, they show you her when Anakin teaches her to use the second saber, and she is wearing her later outfit as that and that's a good move, and that's a good kind of clean, like, so, like, that's a weird character to kind of
that was definitely
to do that too for that
mini
age.
Skirt and a tube top.
Yeah, like, that didn't seem
She
something
was
like the Jedi would be
13
like,
or
yeah, this is appropriate for a student of the Force.
Yeah.
Like, we've seen other, like, younglings, and they dress like properly.
The only other one I can kind of think of along those lines would be Ayla Secura.
But
she had the tube top and then Star Wars yoga pants. You know what I mean?
I will give you that. But she was a master, so we'll give it that, like, someone of that, like,
also a full grown.
Yeah, you know what I mean? So that's a decision made. It felt like she should just be in, like, a robe. Like, we see everyone, like, even in Breaking Bad, we see young Kanan, like, they're in robes. You know what I mean? Like, so the physical design of, like, that was kind of the 2 lightsaber, I thought was really neat. Mm-hmm. That, like, so she was no longer human. We went with, like, an orange character, so it, like, in the animated style, it really worked. It kind of, like, with the colors, it was very vibrant. That it's Letku, correct? That's for that's Twi'lek, isn't it?
Twi'lek or Leku, hers are Montrose.
So we had seen, I think, Shakti.
Yes.
And she had, like, a big elaborate piece.
Yep.
And we'll talk about this later, but I was like, that's a weird thing to do, or that's a difficult thing to do live action. That's a lot for, like, an actor's head to, like, make that movement seem real. But in an animated universe, it was really cool.
Mm-hmm.
I liked, so the colors, that, like, that orange, white, and blue, it became, like, very unique. And we see that, you know, in season 7 of the Clone Wars, when those 501st, like, those are really cool colors.
Yeah. It's crazy how that came together too, eh? Because the 501st is white and blue, and then you're like, Ahsoka, boom!
You know what? It's almost as if, like, Dave Filoni, like, may have had some idea.
Yeah.
Like, you know?
I love that.
I think he knew what was going on with his own characters. So I thought that was really neat. like the two lightsaber design, the longer and the shorter blade.
Yep.
I thought for that animated series kind of like worked well in that like it was very fast paced and like it's kind of frantic combat. I think what really did it for me was season 7. I know everyone
Of course.
but that mall fight, we talked about this briefly. That is still one of my favorite lightsaber battles.
Yeah.
Because they use motion capture and it feels like you're watching two actors go at it. Like the swings are these death swings by these trained, users of the Force. Like,
and Ahsoka's coming to be a very well-rounded character at this point. So not only is she's not annoying anymore, she's getting good with sabers. She's respectful. You've grown to love her now after you've watched 7 seasons of her. You know what I mean? Like, that was an amazing, amazing finale to the Clone Wars.
And credit to the voice actress too, Ashley
Eckstein, amazing.
Really brought a nuance to that character.
Yeah.
I thought that the entire Clone Wars, well, not all of it, a lot of the Clone Wars casting was really good. You just can't replicate like the Mace Windu stuff. Like,
yeah, definitely.
But Ashley did a phenomenal job. So that was Ahsoka that we knew, and by season 7 and like seeing the Siege of Mandalore, I think all Star Wars fans had to kind of turn that post on, and like we were invested in her as a character, and for her to fight Maul, what a great way to go out. And then she kind of made some appearances past that. So Clone Wars ran 2008, last season was 2020.
Yeah.
So quite a long time there, and then she made appearances on Star Wars Rebels from 2014 to 2018.
Yes.
And that was a really neat reveal, Fulcrum.
Yeah.
Just seeing her, and so Rebels is a different art style to Clone Wars, so I could appreciate the different look. Her mantras were much
bigger.
Yeah, but I mean the lightsabers were emphasized. Everything was very artistically done. It was almost like they wanted to replicate like Ralph McQuarrie art.
Okay.
So I enjoyed her look in that. I enjoyed her role in that. I enjoyed the voice acting. It was just a great character to watch. Really, like it's hard not to enjoy like someone that you've turned the page on, and then seeing her in this like bigger role. You're like, this is a fun character. I want to see her stories.
Was she in all of Rebels?
Or
just some episodes?
So she is Fulcrum, a rebel contact or a rebel informant. I think it's from season 2 on.
Okay.
That they make mention of it.
Yeah.
And then the big reveal. I mean, she plays a huge part in the Twilight of the Apprentice.
That's when they go to
the Sith.
Yes.
Yes, and
amazing episode.
That iconic fight with her and Vader.
Yeah.
So her combat style was really cool, and like they really emphasized that like she was not strong. She was a young child during the Clone Wars, but that made her fast.
Yeah.
So I like the two sabers, like the one shorter, like she could move. It was multiple swings, and like she was fighting battle droids mostly, and like deflecting bolt. Like she wasn't really into this one-on-one combat until later, and like she could pull her weight in her own style. That fight against Vader is just brutal.
Yeah.
I love when you see her like using 2 sabers to block a single attack, because she doesn't have the strength and stuff. Like, he's really like
he's on another level at this point with saber blows. Yeah.
So it was really neat to see her in that, and then her big reveal was in Mandalorian season 2, chapter 13, the Jedi.
Yeah.
I remember I was excited for that episode. We were building the house, and I was driving home, and I was so excited to watch it. And I'd stopped at I was staying at my girlfriend's house, and I was the first one home. I walked through the door to their house, didn't even turn on a single light, and I sat on the chair that was right there, and I put on that episode, and I was glued to the screen. And there was a TV in the house. I could have sat, but I was just so taken. And I had originally thought, because I knew she was going to make the appearance, and I thought like she'll probably show up like maybe halfway through for Lucky. Like, will we see like I didn't know the context.
Yeah.
That first
scene,
it
opens in that forest with the smoke and the trees, and Yeah.
Unbelievable.
Yeah.
It was a great scene. Figure she was fighting something we'd never seen, but uniquely Star Wars. The planet, never seen it, but it felt like Star Wars. The white blade. So for those people that hadn't seen any of this other, like, Rebels, white lightsabers were a new thing, and she has a very iconic sound on her blades.
Oh yeah.
So that movement, the way it's shot, the way she like cuts a tree in half or in thirds, and she like pulls to hit it, like you're like, oh my god, like this is the live action Ahsoka. This is the reflection of this character. That was I did not move from that seat. I watched the entire episode there, the biggest smile on my face. That episode was amazing. But that reveal when Din is surprised by her, and he's blocking her shots, everything about that, the way he grapples her, and she kind of sees the train.
She was like, and then just backflips over the tree.
She knows what's going. You know what I mean? Like, this is a trained Jedi that has like.
He knew he was outmatched like that. He's like, Ahsoka.
That scene where he's like, Ahsoka Tano, I got chills. Butterfly, whatever. Like, it was like Star Wars. Like, oh my god, like this is now like real. Like, this is a real character because it's on the big screen or the TV screen.
Meanwhile, you're like,
yeah, on my small phone, exactly. That was such a cool episode. I really seeing her. I thought Rosario Dawson was a great choice. I think she really pulled off the role. I liked that whole episode, the way it was shot. That the fight between her and Morgan, I enjoyed, and I know people are like, "Oh, she could have used the Force." It was a warrior. Mm-hmm. She could win that battle no matter what. I think.
And now we know Morgan could have used magic.
Yeah.
So it wasn't just Ahsoka could have used the Force. I think it was a mutual agreement that it was a duel, like you said.
It was just two warriors.
The
way
they didn't speak a damn word.
She didn't retrieve her saber with the Force. It was just like, we're gonna fight. The samurai motif and the feeling that they're going with her, very cool.
I love it.
They're really going with this. Doesn't he call her a Ronin?
A Ronin.
Yeah. He knows exactly what he's doing.
Yeah.
That was just such a cool episode. Seeing her like that was just amazing.
That for me is still one of my favorite Star Wars episodes of all time. Like you said, the duel between him and Ahsoka, and then the duel between Morgan and Ahsoka.
She revealed a lot about Grogu.
I was just gonna say that the reveal of Grogu's name.
Like, she played the biggest role in the Mandalorian mystery. Like, this Grogu will answer some stuff. Now, does he have an Order 66 flashback in that episode?
No.
Do we see the little hallway?
No, that would be Book of Boba Fett. I think that we get
that we see that,
and then we get another one in Mando season 3, I believe.
So, but at least we get the name reveal of Grogu. So she plays a big role.
I love how she didn't take him in, though. Like, I really liked that. How she was like, no, he's got too much attachment. Like, I've seen what this can do before.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, she's talking about Anakin. Like, that was so cool.
Now, so if we're a viewer who hasn't seen any of the Clone Wars stuff, and we don't know who her master is the reveal in this show when Thrawn says that, the master is Anakin Skywalker?
Would be before that, but it would be in the show. It would have been when, because that was at the end, right? It would have been probably, is it episode 3, I think? So episode 4.
Yeah, Fallen Jedi.
And he goes,
I knew you're right.
Anakin told me a lot about you,
yeah.
or spoke a lot about you, and she goes, funny, because I didn't hear anything about you. Like, yes. Oh my god. I also love Rosario Dawson. First time I ever saw her was Clerks.
Yep.
Loved her in Clerks. Think she's great. Seeing her in The Rundown with Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson and Seann William Scott, great. And then hearing that she was going to be Ahsoka, I was like, no way. And I was a little nervous, but I was like, I love Rosario Dawson, so we'll give it a shot. And I think she's nailing it. Like, I love because she's different than Ashley Eckstein.
Yep.
She's playing a different time of the character.
She's playing a character that's almost 30 years on.
Definitely.
Like, so a lot changes.
Different, but also you can feel the Ahsoka from the show. Or at least I do. Like, I feel the Ahsoka from the Clone Wars.
So that was a big thing for me, because in the Mandalorian episode, I felt that in just that little bit that we had. she was a deadly combatant. She was, the way she is not, she's attacking Din, yes, but like when he tells her to stop and she sees Grogu, like, she's able to be at peace and like figure things out, and like the reveal, the smirks, the smiles, like
Yeah.
she fit that.
Yeah.
Where I feel the Ahsoka TV show um, had some flaws in the character portrayal of her was she was way too stoic at the beginning for me. She was like always arms crossed. She was always quiet. She was always kind of like mopey. I don't know like a better way to.
I liked that though.
And I know that it evolved.
Yes, I think that was another part of her character arc, right? Was she was trying to be someone that she's not, right? She was trying to, one, she's lost Ezra. She's frustrated as all hell with Sabine, which Sabine, I'm not overly fond of the Sabine character and everything she did in the show, but she's super frustrated with Sabine. To my knowledge, again, I haven't watched all of Rebels, but she had left Sabine because she had already been frustrated with Sabine, right?
The way Rebels ended, though, the epilogue kind of gave the impression that they were back together. So
I remember that.
You feel like there's multiple falling out now, and
but
yeah.
Back to the character development, she grows throughout the show and becomes more like at the end. She's stranded in the outside galaxy now, and she's like, "No, this is where we're supposed to be." Like very calm and at peace again. And
okay, so and this is a weird thing because I want to ask you this: isn't that like Luke in Last Jedi? Like his kind of like he's cut away, and like maybe this is where he needs to be. Like I felt like they're doing a Yoda Luke thing to Ahsoka. Like they're gonna be.
I think it's totally different. I think it's totally different because to me, she didn't like. Well, okay, so she did get beat, and now she's there. But she also had like her comeback before she did that, right? Like she took out all the troopers. She took out Elsbeth, right?
Yeah.
Ezra got back on the ship, and now so she's trusting in the Force. I think she also has a big part to do with the whole Balin thing. Like, because that's not wrapped up. That's not wrapped up. So I think
absolutely
she, like, when she says this is where we're supposed to be, I think we don't know this as the viewers. We can only speculate. But her and Balin are either going to work together or they're going to have to fight. And like Shin and Sabine are clearly button heads, right? They're good rivals, I think. And I think Balin and Ahsoka are good rivals. And so I think there's going to be a whole storyline there because
that's a great.
I don't think Shin is going to stay with those mercenaries. Like I don't know what's going to happen there. Maybe Shin will join Sabine and Ahsoka. Who knows?
Well, but she was offered. She was. I mean,
you're right.
It's still there.
You're true. Yeah, that's totally true. But like I think I would like to see more Sabine and Shin fight than anything else with Sabine. Like I don't have any Rebels attachment to Sabine, so I've just seen her in the show, and I don't think she was so annoying. Like the whole show, she just felt like a burden. I don't know if that's what she was there to do, was feel like a burden, but she felt like she was always just getting in the way, slowing Ahsoka down.
Yep, she was kind of just pushing back,
whiny. And then I don't understand the dynamic with her and Ezra, because in Rebels, the little bit that I've watched, you get the impression that they're like brother sister vibe, where in this they felt very more like lovers. And I'm like, do they got a thing? Are they a thing?
And I don't, I think a big problem is Disney doesn't commit to anything. So there's nothing outright said. But yes, there was a weird dynamic there that they were of the same age. Yeah, they were younger, but like they were all part of this big family.
Yeah.
But, like what happens when you grow up?
Yeah.
Like, I wasn't a fan of her in that series. Like at first, I wasn't a fan of Ezra.
Yeah,
he's kind of a slow character to burn, and then there's other things
in
to
Rebels you're talking about.
Yeah.
Okay.
Sabine was just she had some real cool moments. Like, I mean, that was the first time we saw a Mandalorian with like a lightsaber.
Yeah.
With the dark, like what I mean. Like that was a really neat. But then they kind of nullify a lot of what happens in Rebels when they're just like her family died. Like it's just some passing exposition in Ahsoka that like her family didn't survive, and it's like we watched this whole series of like her protecting them and doing this, and like they're sort of like they just died.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, the whole, what was the name of the actress who, I don't think I've seen her in anything else.
I like when Star Wars does that.
Natasha Leo Bordizzo. Natasha Lou Bordizzo as Severine Wren. So it was a Mandalorian warrior and graffiti artist, Imperial Academy dropout, former bounty hunter, and Ahsoka's former apprentice with expert knowledge of weapons and explosives. The actress watched Rebels to prepare for the role and spent 3 months prior to filming training to use a lightsaber. So like just training in that combat. Did you get like the graffiti artist? Like, did you get the Academy dropout bounty hunter? Like,
Dude, I didn't feel any of that.
Like, you know what I mean? Like, if you hadn't watched Rebels,
Yeah.
she was just this person living in this tower that like supposedly did some stuff. Like, you know, they kind of touch on it. Like, she was a hero of. I forget.
I think they want you to watch everything though. Like their whole goal,
of course, yeah,
is like, hey,
but for the average
you're missing
person,
all this info. You need to go back and watch that. Like Marvel, I think we're probably the first ones to like really do that because like nobody wants to watch an Ant-Man movie, but you need to know. You need to watch Ant-Man if you want to understand Endgame.
You're right, and this is what's going wrong with the. So this is a big thing. This is what's going wrong with the series right now with Marvel. There's too much content,
yeah,
and there's too much to follow, and I think that's a big thing with Star Wars too. We were kind of getting there with these shows. So we were talking about the Skeleton Crew is the next one to come out. It should come out before the end of the year. I think that's what it's scheduled for. But how many live action shows have we seen now? So 3 seasons of The Mandalorian,
Boba,
Book of Boba Fett,
Kenobi,
Obi-Wan Kenobi,
Ahsoka,
Andor. That's a lot of content.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, that's as many movies as there were in, like, the original and the prequel. Like,
did you see the difference in the budget that I put on the screen for Kenobi and Andor?
So,
Kenobi was $90 million. Andor was $250.
I think they're kind of crippled in the way they're shooting these. That, like, I felt if they had budgets dedicated to movies, we would have seen some wild stuff. I go back to the Kenobi show. The fights with him and Vader in that like sandpit area felt very small. Everything felt very small. It's where they're shooting in the volume, that big stage. That works for Mandalorian because in those environments, it was still contained. It was small enough. And these big stories, like, I want to see bigger production values. Like, last time Anakin Obi-Wan fought was in Mustafar. They're riding mining equipment. You know what I mean? Like, it's a super ridiculous, iconic fight. This was like a planet with some rocks. And, you know, the whole, the lightsabers don't feel as powerful or they glow too much and like the way it's filmed, that doesn't bother me. It's just like, I want to see Star Wars. I want to see there's so much more you could be putting on screen.
Yeah.
So I feel with Ahsoka, there was a lot of instances where I really felt the confinements of the volume that they were filming on. I think you could probably do a cut out there of all the lightsaber fights. You know, her versus Merrick versus Balin for like multiple times. They're shot very like point of center, like everyone's like mid front, like they're all the same shot because that's all you can do in that. And we talked about that.
I see what you're saying.
At the end of Ahsoka, when there's the 3 of them in a line deflecting bolts, that shot is boring. It's a static shot of you watching that. They're always in a confined space. They're always in a small. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I never looked at it like that, but I understand what you're saying.
Look at even the Clone Wars stuff, the flashbacks from Chapter 5. It's all fog, and like you just see 1 or 2 guys running by.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, that could have been a wicked, big.
I want to talk a lot about Episode 5 today. Yeah. I think they could have done so much more with that. So, sorry, let's let you finish
that's okay. But that's what this is about. We talk about what interests us and like the passion. So I feel like the shooting of this Ahsoka series did not do justice to us. Where in Andor, and we'll do when we talk about Andor, those environments are small and like works great.
Mm-hmm.
And Ahsoka, it should have been grander, greater. Like, I feel like Peridia was super boring. It's a planet like
there was nothing cool other than the statues, obviously, but
there was nothing to it. You know what I mean? Like it just felt like it was another planet in Star Wars. It didn't feel like another galaxy. Give me something that goes like even the statues. Like give me something on this planet that you're like, this is different.
Do you remember? Is it Yavin 4 with the big red planet that was right there beside it? Tatooine with 3 moons. Where are all these little details that make it different from Earth?
Don't give us another sand
looked
planet,
like Earth.
Yeah,
Peridia looked like Earth. You go to Sudbury out into a field where there's rocks and it looks like Peridia. You're like,
Book of Boba Fett did it where like they were fighting on that mountainside. And, like I literally felt like you're gonna see someone hiking through the background.
Yeah,
like, young kids and like
it's
walking
Earth.
through, like, yeah, give me something. Give me something fun. Give me something Star Wars. So I'm really disappointed me.
In like, okay, Mustafar, you think hot, lava. Hoth, you think snow. Endor, you think luscious green. Naboo, you think like futuristic, like city.
Yeah,
like they all have a feeling. Every planet has like a feeling to it. Where like every planet in Mandalorian feels the same. Every planet in Kenobi felt the same. Every planet in every show feels the same. Where's the new planet?
So a big one for me that I still love this movie for that reason. Rogue One. Scarif.
Yep.
The Battle of Scarif was
like
a
giant beach.
We've never seen that.
Yep.
That was kind of cool. And like they had stormtroopers to fight like that, and the walkers, and it felt like Vietnam, and the planes going, but like the X-wings and the Y. No, what are they? The U-wings?
I don't know.
The big transport.
It's been a while.
Ones. That was a neat like environment. I feel like these TV shows, some of these series were owed more. Like Kenobi was originally a movie. I would have done like an hour and a half to 2 hour movie that was just like, really trim and really well done and like some great visuals and like.
So we talked 90 million for Kenobi, right?
Yeah.
How much does Ewan McGregor and Hayden Christensen get paid? Would they each take home 20 mil? Okay, so now we're down to 50 mil. Like, you know what I mean? I'm like, after you pay out all your actors, we've put no money into what should have been the biggest TV show in the world of all time.
It's crazy. This was the one that everyone was really excited for.
Yep.
And there's some great, I think there was a Hot Toys. It was a toy back in the day of older Kenobi, but not quite New Hope.
Mythos. Yes. I have it.
With the white robes, and he's got 2 sabers on his belt.
He's got 3. He gets Qui-Gon's, his own, and Anakin's. A Tusken Raider staff, backpack with a sleeping bag. He's got a moisture farming thing.
Yeah. Does he have like goggles and something
too? Bandana.
And the age of him, the beard, like, that's amazing.
Yep.
That's maybe a good starting point. Like, that's a cool thing that, like, and we see that at the end, a sort of take on it. But
they literally made that figure. Yeah, like
it.
He's got the goggles. He's got the white robe. He's got the half jacket.
The Kenobi series disappointed on so many levels. It felt small. Ahsoka. So now we're, for the casual viewer, it's a series about, we don't know, because they don't know that it's Anakin's apprentice. It's just this Jedi trying to find Thrawn, who they don't know who Thrawn is if they haven't seen this stuff. So you have to, be watching Rebels to see this.
Although I guess it would be pretty cool if you didn't know that as another reveal, right? You get 3-4 episodes in, and then Balin goes, Anakin talked a lot about you. And then you'd be like, wait, what? And then like it'd be a new reveal,
Anakin,
right?
You mean like that Darth Vader guy?
Yeah. Yeah, that'd be like a decent reveal.
And she has white sabers, so that they're trying to understand. That's I feel like Dave Filoni obviously put a lot of care into this, but I feel like this show was done a disservice. I was kind of getting bored of Star Wars at this point. Not like it's bad, but it's like Kenobi disappointed me big time. Book of Boba Fett disappointed me. These are not like, okay, I'm excited for Star Wars, but like I am kind of sludging through the stuff. Some of those episodes are boring. Some of those
Yeah.
some of the Boba Fett stuff, it's like, okay, come on,
Yeah.
get to the.
Remember the Power Ranger episode? Those guys on the bikes, and they had like their whole episode of doing their thing.
So the speed chase on that, I feel like that was if that was a bigger movie and they did a chase through streets, it would be a big set piece. It'd be like a really neat thing. Like, that's cool. That's iconic.
Oh, it was iconic already.
in bad ways. I felt Ahsoka was just too small in some of the skills. So I'm all over the place. But if you look at some of the lightsaber battles, or almost all of them, they can be framed like this. Like, it's just two guys going back and forth.
I do see what you're saying. I would like some different shots.
Something dynamic.
Do you know, remember in episode 3, like Revenge of the Sith, Anakin and Obi-Wan, they jump out on that arm to go out, and then the lava comes up, burns the arm down, they fall. So do you remember the shot when they were doing that? It's like way up and above, and it's like zooming in on them, and then they run over to the thing, the lava starts coming up, and then it starts to fall, and it pans way out. You see all of Mustafar, and then they're like swinging on the thing, just clash and saber. Like, yeah, where's that stuff? Where's that stuff? Now that you point that out, where's that stuff?
So again, I'm not being overly cynical or nitpicking, but that's what this podcast is, us just discussing this stuff.
Yeah.
A lot of lightsaber fights were great, but none of them were overly memorable compared to other stuff that we've seen prior.
Mm-hmm.
And this is the show that maybe probably should have stepped it all up. The whole Ronin aspect of her was really emphasized on us. I really enjoyed the dynamic between her and Balin in the fights.
Mm-hmm.
So he was a knight. We see it in like his look, the shoulder pads, the kick. I feel like his lightsaber may be longer. I don't know, because you can change.
Look at that.
Yeah. But I feel like the way that he was fighting was like a two-handed greatsword. All of his swings had power to them, and like if you watch the Ahsoka fights, she's blocking and trying to push off. She needs two hands, and she still can't hold him back. So she needs to. There's one scene where she like deflects him, and she has to put her leg up to brace. Because like she doesn't have that strength. Yeah, this dude would be like a general. This dude would have been like, not Anakin strong, but like he survived Order 66.
Yeah,
he's pretty strong.
And one of my favorite moves that he does is when they're fighting on that like podium-esque thing,
the small circular one.
Yeah, and
because that's all Disney gives
jump,
us.
Spin, and comes like down and just blows through her block. Like, that was so cool. It reminded me a lot of Darth Maul. I want to know what form he uses. We're going to have to put it on the screen here, but...
Yeah, we'll figure that one out.
I want to know, what form he uses, because it's pretty cool. I like Balin a lot.
Balin was a great character. But again, the shows are set up to... This is my overall feel of the show. So, the show was set up for more. It took
definitely
prior knowledge, and it sets up for more knowledge later.
Yeah.
In the own universe, like, it really didn't... I don't know, like, a lot of time was spent to get us from A to B, and, like, we didn't go that far. Yes, she finds Thrawn. He comes back to the galaxy. That's a lot of episodes just to be like, this dude found his way back.
It could have all been done in one.
If she didn't have any involvement, Elsbeth would have found Thrawn and come back, and, like...
Yeah.
It could have been a side note or something, you know what I mean? But it was a series, and so now she's over there, and Ezra's back. So, like, the status quo, okay, now there's still kind of a Jedi in each. Like, it's setting up for the next big thing. You know what I mean? Oh, we see pyramids. Give us a story.
It's a setup show.
Just give us...
Is there supposed to be a season 2, or was it a limited series?
I think originally it was a limited series. I don't think there's any confirmation. But... it's unfinished.
Yeah.
So is it Heir of the Empire that
finishes?
Yeah, or is it season 2?
Mm-hmm.
Like, just give us a contained, really good Ahsoka story. So again, I feel Disney is limiting in like the use of the stage and stuff, the budgets, maybe the intent that like these things have to be 8 episodes. Like what does it end up being with the runtime? We'll find out, but it's like well over 6, 7, like it's like
around that
2-3 hours worth of movies that you watch in the span of a month and a bit.
Yeah,
it's a lot. Whereas we had time in between the movies to take things in, and they were great big set. Phantom Menace. Let's talk about like the set pieces. Like everyone knows like Naboo, the pod racing, the battles, the lightsaber. Like it's very Ahsoka doesn't really have again a lot of memorable stuff to me.
Mm-hmm.
You know, we briefly see the world between worlds, but like it's not explained.
Yeah, there was that whole episode could have been done way better.
Did she die and like he pulled her there? You know, there's no revelation of how Ezra saved her in Rebels, like how that changed. Did it change anything? So it again, I enjoyed the series, but I felt like there was a lot of fan service, as is with most things.
Yeah.
And Disney just doesn't commit to stuff. It's always set up for like, here's a we're gonna constantly feed you, and there's gonna be another season of this, and we're not gonna explain everything right away. And it's like, just give us a good story.
Yeah.
Just take your time. You know. So this was, like we said, this was announced in 2000, and so she was in an episode November 27th, 2020. Her show was announced that year and came out this year, December.
3 years.
Yeah.
3
could have been like
years.
just release a nice movie.
Yeah.
That could be like
That's
a streaming
such a
thing.
long time. They released so many shows then, though. Tales of the Jedi, The Skeleton Crew, Rogue Squadron. Like they released a giant list of shows at that point.
It's like overwhelming. You're like,
it was way too overwhelming. And even still, we haven't gotten a lot of those shows.
Because they've been canceled. They have issues. I don't necessarily like this. You can use a series well. So you can have a limited series. You can have stuff like that. But to constantly be creating this thing where all your content is series now and not movies.
Yeah.
It's too much to, like, we can't really appreciate what we get because we're constantly getting more and more and more and more.
Do you think they're just scared?
I think it was kind of probably and I could be wrong here, like a business decision on their part, as in, like, to keep streamers on a streaming service, we need to have multiple exclusive shows that release weekly to keep subscription. Instead of like if we had a movie that released every 2 years, like it would probably get pirated or people would subscribe and then cancel out.
Think about though, like definitely a business decision, but so Rogue One wasn't as loved as I think they wanted. Solo definitely wasn't as loved as I think they wanted. The sequels definitely weren't as loved as they wanted. Then they came with Mando. And you didn't even have to know what Star Wars was to be like, yeah, Baby Yoda. That stuff's cool. Right? Like, it got everybody into Star Wars. And they were like, well, something's working. Why are we going to change it? Like, let's just run shows back and back.
And it worked. But the Mando was, you just made the point that it was, you're right, it was, you didn't need to know anything. It was just a great show. Mm-hmm. Where Ahsoka is, you need to know everything, and then it's
now they've gotten way out of hand.
It's a fun show, but it's not like...
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Kenobi should have been a movie.
Kenobi should have been Let's do an episode on that, because I have a whole... Just...
What it could have been?
Yeah.
Yeah.
They didn't like... they're like, we're going to hit it out of the park. They were in the wrong stadium playing the wrong sport. Mm-hmm. Like, it was just, that's...
Who directed that? Deborah Chow?
Yes, and that was the first series that had the same director for every episode versus like Mando, but like they all have had different directors.
Yeah.
I had hopes for Ahsoka. I was excited for it, but like there was a lot of disappointing stuff prior. Mm-hmm. Little bored with like some of this bad stuff, so I was on the fence.
You're going in with a bad taste in your mouth.
Yeah, but I was still excited. It's Ahsoka,
of course.
And you hear the rumors of like there's gonna be some Clone Wars, and there's okay, great, awesome.
Are you like me though? You don't get too hyped up because we've been disappointed with that in the past.
What true Star Wars fans we are. Well, no, I always stay optimistic. I like to think that there's always something, even if there's 100 bad things, and there's something cool that I can take away from it.
100%.
Were there cool aspects in this that I took away? Absolutely. That like, yeah. Was there more that I wish had been done? Yeah. They could have streamlined it down. They could have spent more money on the fights. She never has a resolution.
Where's Nick Gillard at? Man was a god at this lightsaber stuff. Like, we talked last time about the deleted scenes and how amazing those were. Those were all Nick Gillard. And Lucas was just like, too long. Let's change it up a bit. Like, I don't like that. Change it up. Like,
that was like real like fighting, and like you're like, this is cool. Yeah. The Ahsoka one's okay. So she has lightsaber battle against Merrick a few times, doesn't she? That's super.
That was a point I wanted to bring up.
Doesn't really go anywhere. You know, she has 2 fights against Balin, loses both technically. She just escapes the second time because she can't win.
Yeah.
She wins against Morgan, but like,
and Shin.
Yeah, well, she had to win against
Shin.
Shin, but she had to. Like, we needed to see that she was, you know, significantly stronger. Even some of her movements when she's training, she's very slow.
I feel like Marok, or is it Morok, Marok?
Something like that.
He was a giant letdown for me. I was so excited for that character, and then there was all the rumors it could potentially be Starkiller, or it could be the Sun, or it could be something. It could be anything. Other than
he could have been a new character.
Other than a Night Sister adaptation that why okay, so if he's just a Night Sister adaptation, why was Ahsoka just playing with him? Because like she shouldn't have taken that long to defeat him when she did defeat him. And then in episode 2 when they're on that what even are they on, like a junkyard? A rebuild yard? Like
yeah, it's that background, like the shot is they're on a very clean like walkway and there's a lot of stuff going on in the background. It's that volume where, hey, we're going to project all this stuff. We're in like an incredibly unpopulated like little section, like that's very clean. Yeah, it just didn't feel.
So then I'm like, why didn't she just dummy him there? Like, he's nothing. She's at this point, in my eyes, a Jedi Master, like, or on that level, you know? Like, she could rival some of the Jedi Masters that were sitting on the council for sure. Like, I'm like, she's at another level where this adaptation, whatever it even was, should not be able to put up a fight against Ahsoka.
Why did we need 3 enemy lightsaber users? And then we get a 4th bonus one with Morgan and the magic sword. Like, what was the point of Merrick? So there was a mercenary who had an apprentice. We'll get into the Dark Jedi. And then who did Merrick belong to? He belonged to the Night Sisters. So then the Night Sisters had a dead Inquisitor that they used as...
Maybe they were just like, rise up, old Zabrak or something, put on this armor. And whose armor is it? It's not even Inquisitor armor. It kind of looks like Inquisitor armor, but it's not. It's not Inquisitor armor.
And then like the Saber's Inquisitor though, isn't it?
The Saber's Inquisitor. So, but
does that mean that? But were those mass-produced sabers? Because all the Inquisitors had the same saber.
Exactly. Like, what is even happening?
So, are they going to do something where, like, those coffins are all
Merrick's? Oh, I never thought of that.
They're all just, you know, a Night Sister creation army that, like,
they better not have lightsabers.
Could you imagine?
They better not have lightsabers. Because where would they get them? We saw
Thrawn is going back to the Empire, and he's going to get supplies. And if the Empire made, you know, Inquisitor sabers, they would probably, like I said, mass produce them, and then all of a sudden, like, you've got a faceless enemy that you can slay in the, you know, the hundreds. That's a bad side lightsaber user. So now your good guys can chop them down. Like, is that where we're going with this? There's no information on Merrick. So he's this character that's like
such a letdown for
maybe
me.
That was part of him though. Maybe that was the directors being like, not everyone is a character or not everyone's important. But like, okay, but you just made us ask more questions that like
exactly. Like you said, why do we need a third lightsaber person then? Why wasn't Ahsoka fighting Balin in the forest? Why was she fighting Merrick?
Why wasn't she, you know, I could have had more Shin versus Ahsoka fight. So you could have seen the level of like Shin trying to fight Ahsoka and Ahsoka not wanting to kill her because like that's just, she doesn't want to slay her. And like Shin is getting more and more aggressive. So you're seeing like more dark side traits or whatever. So she's becoming more desperate in the fights. And like, she's not becoming better necessarily, but her strikes are harder and there's a trade-off and Ahsoka's still not going to kill her. So, you know, the battles are her just kind of defending or trying to stop her. That's something. And then, you know, then Ahsoka to Balin where it's like, he's trying to kill me. I need to kill him. But like, oh, he's strong.
Yeah.
He is physically bigger and larger and tougher and stronger. And like my fastness, my quickness, my agility, which I feel didn't come across in this series,
definitely
is negated.
Yeah.
So I feel like part of that has to do with the design of the costume.
I felt like it came across, but in her fight with Morgan.
Yeah,
that was super fast compared to her fight with Balin.
her fights with Balin, her fights with Merrick, her fights with like, she was in this show very like it was very fast, very acrobatic, very like, and that's hard to do in live action, but like, do it. Figure out a way. Yeah,
like,
come on, Disney, you've got all the millions.
Haven't you seen these Spider-Man movies? Like, just
there's something you can do.
CGI. Like, we've got.
I'm a big fan of practical effects, but sorry, continue.
Yeah, but we need CGI. Like,
to a degree, yeah.
Did you see in Revenge of the Sith? Okay, you know when Anakin and Obi do the Annie Obi and then the Force push?
Yeah.
So they zoom out because there was a missed shot in filming and it was too late to put the new, like, to go in and refilm and put the new shot in. So there's a point where it just pans and everything's CGI and you can't tell. And this is back in 2005. And they're doing mad lightsaber spins and stuff. Like, I'm like, why can't we do this now?
So I always go to like I think pinnacle of like, there's two movies that I would say pinnacle of like live action practical effects. The Thing and like Terminator 2. Terminator 2 has great practical effects and great CGI, and they complement each other. So the scenes where like the T-1000 has the big holes in his mushroom, those are practical effects, and they're supplemented with CGI.
Yeah.
So I feel like you could do, CGI Yoda in Attack of the Clones gets a lot of slack for all like the movement and stuff, but you can do a healthy medium between the two and like speed up some of the movements make things more smooth with like post editing, like, but give me good visuals, give me a good something to latch onto, and then just tweak it, make it better. Yeah. Don't rely on just. I know,
but there's no way, like, even in the tiny little bit of editing videos I do, like, you could put a crappy looking headpiece on Ahsoka, zoom way out, which is what we want.
Yeah.
And now you can't tell. So it's literally like latex with nothing in it, and they're flopping all over. But that's also because you've got a stunt double out there doing flips and stuff. Like, they could make it work.
They could make it work.
And they're just not making it work.
Again, I'm going to beat it like a dead, I don't want to say horse, but Bantha or
Wampa.
Yeah. Or Tauntaun, I guess.
Yeah. That's what I was going for, Tauntaun.
If this was on a larger scale, they could have done more, I feel.
Yeah.
Everything was very contained and very small and very didn't feel grand. So Ahsoka was a show just explaining, you needed explanations to get explanations. The show itself didn't do anything super revolutionary for me. There was some neat.
It was a setup show.
Yeah.
And that's all it was.
Some neat shots here, some iconic things, characters come to life, live action, but it was not a big letdown, but it was just kind of more of the same. So, whereas I feel like if we saw this, maybe I'm getting excited over nothing, this Heir to the Empire movie, this is probably going to be like a serious, lean, hard movie. Like, there's gonna be a lot going on, but like there's not gonna be filler episodes or like
if they do it right, they won't have time. It's gonna be 2.5 hours crammed packed of information and action. Like,
it's so my thoughts on the series before we'll break down episode by episode.
Do you want to take a quick break?
I was gonna say,
when we come back, we'll start doing the episodes.
So final thought here. Just we'll walk away with. So what were your final thoughts on Ahsoka overall? Just kind of, what you felt leading into it and, sitting here now, like, what are your thoughts?
So going into it, I was expecting more than what we got. I'm also not unhappy, though.
Okay.
I think, like, watching it, I didn't, again, until you brought it up, I didn't even, like, recognize the small set. Like, I was just so into it because I love Ahsoka and I thought the story was done really well. Mind you, it was a setup story, of course. Like, it definitely came out a setup story. And that's what I mean earlier when I said, like, I wanted more out of it. I would have loved to see Thrawn come back to the galaxy and end on more of a win and Ahsoka end on a loss. Like, I would have liked that. Like, yeah, that's what happened. But I'm like, Ahsoka should have lost her damn hand or something. Like, give me
something.
Like, she lost her little saber, and then at the end we see it on her belt again, and I'm like, well, was that editing flaw, or did she lose her little saber?
Good eye.
So I'm like, I don't know. I wish it ended bigger. I wish it ended with more like, boom, where are we going from here?
That's what I mean. It didn't take any chances, right? It was just the same.
It should have ended with Luke coming out of like a meditation, like, oh, this ain't good. Like, I got a bad feeling about this. Something like that.
Why was he not involved? And the problem is, like, so you're keeping him in this universe. So you have these episodes where she sees him and knows him, and there's relationships. So they know each other very well. He's very well aware of Thrawn.
Mm-hmm.
He has fought in the rebellion maybe more so than she has as Fulcrum. Like, he was a commander.
Yeah.
So he knew who Thrawn was. Do you not think that she would be like, at some point, the show's about them finding a map or something, or like, would she not have reached out to him at some point to be like, hey?
Well,
just a heads up.
What's he doing right now? He's building the Jedi Temple. Maybe this is her thing.
And it is her thing, but when you make it part of a bigger universe,
and then it's too late,
and some of the I don't know, they stop making sense. Like, maybe it's just a passing. She could be like, I've sent a message to Luke at his temple.
I think Hera should have reached out to Luke. Hera was at the.
Hera had no development. Hera had nothing to do with the series.
Love the actress, but yeah, the character, I was like, eh.
But the entire Rebels crew,
she didn't do anything Senate-wise, and that's her character, right? Like,
she's okay. So she's a leader. She doesn't always make the right decisions. So in Rebels, she has some really bad battles, like some really but she's just a fighter. Like, she's just So her making brash decisions and making mistakes, okay, I can get. But so we jokingly should title this like Ahsoka season review, or like Rebels season 5.
Yeah.
Like, that's what this was to a degree, but then it wasn't. So we're getting all the characters, like, it's Sabine focused, some Hera, not nearly enough Chopper. There's never enough Chopper. No Zeb.
Yeah.
Ezra was the best part of this. No reference to Kanan, except for a small picture on a dashboard.
At the end with the saber.
Oh, yes, and you're right there. And Yang says, so there's some stuff there, like, but there's no.
I think Hera should have had a bigger part in the saga, or in the series, by reaching out to Luke or Leia. I think that would have been cool, and been like, hey, this is kind of what's going on. Ahsoka's doing her own thing. I'm going to go support. I haven't been approved. Like, she should have reached out and been like, listen, I may be out of line here, but I got a bad feeling about this. Like, you know what I mean? Like,
Jason feeling that there was a lot of like
Jason either.
So there's a lot of like, it doesn't. So the show to me it was just okay, and that was maybe more disappointing that it was just okay, because it's like it could have been so much better.
Yeah,
you're trying to put so much in the show, so that was my thing. Yeah, that I found it maybe disappointing.
I just wanted more. I liked it. I was happy with it, but I wanted more.
So let's break it down kind of episode by episode, and kind of points that we liked, and we'll talk about what we as fans maybe enjoyed, maybe didn't enjoy, felt could have been better, our hopes for what the next step is, if it's a sequel to this series or a movie,
or even what it could have been.
Yeah, and we're going to talk about that, absolutely. Where we thought maybe some revisions could be made. I think Dave Filoni and Jon Favreau have a really good track record with Mandalorian and getting that off the ground. Sometimes you need someone to kind of check your vision sometimes, or be there on the side.
Yeah.
I think it's like known that like the original Star Wars was saved in the edit by his wife. You know what I mean? Like, of all that, like, his wife put together the final cut of the movie that we see and enjoy. Sometimes you need a second opinion,
100%.
So as great as his character has been, or his creation of the character has been, maybe we needed something else with this. It could have been a very neat movie, and with a director that's iconic and in his his style or his art, and big production. But we got essentially 8 episodes, about 45 minutes each.
Yep.
And we're going to go through them, and it's funny, we're looking at our notes, it's like there's a lot of nothing. Like, you can summarize some of these episodes in just a few sentences.
Yeah.
Like, we aren't really progressing the plot.
So we're going to start with episode 1, which is titled Part 1, Master and Apprentice. What to you stood out the most about episode 1? like right now, without looking at any notes, anything.
Anything. Okay.
Right now, when I say episode 1 of Ahsoka, what comes to mind?
So we've already seen the Ahsoka character, so that
Yep.
wasn't a great big reveal. I think the Dark Jedi, is that what we're referring him to?
Baylan and Shin.
Yeah, because that's what we were played up to in the trailer. So we had the first exposure of them.
That opening scene felt very familiar to the Phantom Menace with Qui-Gon and Obi too, landing on the opposing ship and getting out, and like that was super cool for me. That was very iconic.
It's referring to themselves as, well, they didn't refer to themselves as Jedi, right? It was a Jedi ship.
Yeah, so what happened was they landed and the guy goes, "You're Jedi." And they just kind of played along with it until he was like, "I don't buy it." And they were like, "Well, we never said we were Jedi."
Yeah.
And they were like, "Show us your credentials." And he's like, or he says, "Guy, check these guys' credentials." He goes, "Allow me to show you our credentials." And then and Shin goes nuts and he grabs his hand with the Force and pulls him in and stabs him. And
it's so I think this is what the first canon version of like a Dark Jedi, like a Jedi that's fallen but not become a Sith.
I guess you could say that, yeah. Nothing else is coming to mind.
We think of Dooku. Dooku did become a Sith, or was Dooku a Dark Jedi?
He was a Sith. He was a Dark Jedi. They never really defined that.
Well, because he was Darth Tyrannus, but like he more so went by.
Good point.
Use Darth Tyrannus in the movies, or was it always Dooku?
Palpatine used Tyrannus, called him Tyrannus, but he was Dooku to everybody else.
Yeah.
And I think to himself he was Dooku.
Okay.
Like I mentioned in the last episode, I don't think Dooku thought of himself as Palpatine's apprentice, but I think Palpatine thought of Dooku as his apprentice. Like, and that could just be my interpretation of it, but
so Baylan and Shin, what do we consider them? So we know that Baylan was a Jedi Knight. Mm-hmm. We discovered later that he obviously would have partaken in the Clone Wars and he knew Anakin, and that's revealed. Very like silent, stoic character, big, very like intimidating with his robe over those big shoulder pads.
Yeah.
The cloak. So they wear like dark side clothing. Their sabers are orange.
Yep. I would say. At first, I was very against that. I was like, they're not orange. They're red. Like, look, they're red. They're red. They're red. And no, they're definitely orange. Because once you see it beside Merrick's saber, you're like, oh yeah, totally different color. What do you think of Shin? Who do you think Shin is?
Okay, so the internet went wild with Shin Hottie.
Yeah.
She's funny. She's a fun character, but like, the actress, like you see her like behind the scenes, like she's like very good looking and unique and like, but in like that wasn't like the cut or whatever. Like and I kind of took her that like she was. I don't know if they gave her an age, but I thought she was essentially Ahsoka's age during the Clone Wars.
Oh, you think she's that young, eh?
I was thinking somewhere along that line.
Like 14 to 17?
Yeah, so I thought like they weren't trying to sexualize it, and like the outfit was fantastic, like the gauntlets and all that stuff. I thought that she was supposed to be like a younger, sort of, maybe a little bit older than Ahsoka, but around that age. Like
I was thinking like 20-ish.
Yeah.
18 to 20-ish.
How old is Ahsoka during
14.
When she fights Maul though? She's
17.
17. Okay, so around this. So 3 years, give or take, like that's where I kind of saw her at. So around that age. So maybe that's why she took like kind of pity on her. In some of the duels. She was fun.
Yeah.
Like, she was just like.
Do you think, I've seen this theory being bounced around, do you think it's Baylan's daughter?
Oh, it makes you think, but like, why would he leave his daughter?
Because he has bigger things to deal with.
But like,
we've seen crazier. Palpatine straight up killed his parents.
But that's like, what does sacrificing his daughter to the world? Maybe if it was, well, it could be that like that's how he's teaching her now. Like I've given you all the knowledge and skill that has got me here. So how much time has taken in between the Clone Wars and
Ahsoka?
This? Yeah.
So
Ahsoka's 9 years after Return of the Jedi, isn't it? Somewhere around that period. So it could work.
I would say anywhere from 8 to 12 years after, because I don't think we have an exact time right now. Like, because Boba
look into it.
yeah, well, Boba was like 2 years after Mando season 2, and then Mando season 3 came out, and we didn't really have a time thing there. And then this is after Mando season 2, but we don't know if it's before Mando season 3. So, like, where is it? You know, it's in there somewhere. So 8 to 12 years.
Yeah, it's kind of convoluted in there. So she could be his like young daughter. That's a good idea. What are your thoughts? What do you think of her?
I didn't think that until I saw the theory online, and I was like, oh, I kind of really like that. And I would love for him to abandon her like that. I think I've got bigger things to deal with than take care of you. I think it would also be cool if this is my training, because this is how I got trained.
Yep. Okay.
I was abandoned by the Jedi. Now you're abandoned. Get strong. Kind of.
Okay.
I think that'd be interesting. I don't know who she is though. Like I would like her to be some sort, maybe not related to Baylan, but I want to know how she knows Baylan and why Baylan's training her.
See, it was one of those instances where it's more questions, but like maybe unnecessary ones that we're getting. Like, why aren't these answered for us?
Mm-hmm.
You know, he uses that term like was it Boku Jedi or Boken?
Something
Jedi, yeah. So it's a Jedi that's trained after the fall. So, like, he's up to date with what's going on. Like, so he's taken her as an apprentice to do what exactly? Like you're saying, like just leave her on a planet? No, maybe there is a connection. There was a lot of build up to these characters, and we'll get to it, but I don't think the payoff was there.
Yeah, and
so
I don't
think Shin. So it was a neat introduction.
I don't think he's done with Shin either.
No, well, we're not done with Shin as a TV show. So in that instance, what's the big thing? We see Shin fight Sabine, doesn't she? In the first episode?
So that's the part to me that stood out.
Okay.
Was yet another stomach stab that acted like it was absolutely nothing.
Yeah.
By Disney. Qui-Gon, to me, it was a massive character. I absolutely loved Qui-Gon. I think he's a great Jedi. I think he was, now that we've seen characters like Sabine, Reva, Grand Inquisitor, all get stabbed in this. Reva twice. Kid Reva. Bro, survive this. But Qui-Gon Jinn doesn't. Really, really bugs me. I think that's a giant loophole that every time they do it is just going to dig a little bit deeper.
Doesn't it? It doesn't just make it feel worse. It takes away from the impact of the lightsaber. I feel like the lightsaber over the year has become less intense and intimidating. Like, okay, so in Phantom Menace, Qui-Gon puts it into the door and he's melting that steel.
Mm-hmm.
So I take it that, like, okay, people use the argument that Maul stabbed him in the spinal cord and killed him, like, and the other maybe weren't. If you were to take a heated plasma tube, like, through your body, it would melt everything around you.
Yeah.
It's not just cauterizing a wound. Like, I know we're using logic in Star Wars, but, like, the thing was that, like, you would stab someone and you were cooking them and killing them. Like, the lightsaber was powerful. Like, give me this tool that, like, melts ships. And, like, that's cool.
It's supposed to cut through anything. And now it does nothing. Like, we can bounce it off Stormtrooper armor. It does nothing.
I think, the games do it a disservice there.
Well, even this happened in Ahsoka.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
This happened in Kenobi. Like,
it's, you know, I go back to A New Hope has, when Obi-Wan cuts, forget his name.
Hondo Baba.
Yeah, when he cuts, well, so in the original, if you look at it, he cuts he cuts his arm, but it's a different arm that's on the ground.
Oh, really?
Yes. So it's the
Dr. Evison?
Yeah, they've kind of, you'll see in the original cut, but there's blood, is there not?
Yeah.
Like, okay, it was a sword. It was like, and then, like, seeing Phantom Menace, they're like, no, it's a plasma thing. It melts.
Yeah.
The lightsaber doesn't feel as powerful.
Yeah.
So here's Sabine, a character that we eventually find out that everyone is force sensitive. Spoiler alert to the end, but she has no force powers at this time. She gets stabbed, and it's.
She also gets stabbed and goes, like, where? Oh, dude,
it dropped Qui-Gon.
Yeah,
it killed him.
Stopped him in his track. He was done. Like, man, it's really, really bugged me. Stood out to me a lot. And I was like, okay, well, instantly ruined Sabine for me.
In a world of Star Wars where you can give people robotic limbs like this and put a glove on it, why are we not getting more like those are the injuries?
Why don't you just cut her friggin' leg off?
That's a great one. And then you give her a motion capture thing, and she wears a robotic leg.
Yep.
Done.
Man, good point. Yep. That's terrible.
In later episodes, we're going to go back to it, but the lightsabers, there's not enough violence in these Disney Star Wars. Some of the fights feel almost too choreographed. Where like the Anakin Obi-Wan fight is like, you can feel these two guys like this is a battle to the death.
Yeah.
Some of these Ahsoka ones felt like it was almost like a play being rehearsed.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Some of them, like...
It felt like it was two people in their backyard. Like, let's put this together.
In a small circular called the...
yeah.
Yeah. So, yeah, that episode itself, I mean, we got to see Hera. So, this is Ahsoka, the series, Rebels Season 5.
Yeah.
There's a lot of introduction and reintroduction of the Ghost crew from Rebels. The continuation of that story... but that doesn't really go anywhere, and it doesn't like further the plot. Like
you said, we don't even have the whole Ghost crew. Where's Zeb?
There's multiple instances where later episodes, we discuss it. There's X-wing escorts, and Zeb's not there. We've created the character model, put him in the cockpit, have him say something, address him. So everyone knows that Thrawn exists at this point because Thrawn was a threat. Then do they not believe him that like do they not believe Hera that and everyone that like these giant star whales pulled the Chimera into a different galaxy? Like there would be witnesses, like so that should be okay, this can happen. So if Hera, I think she goes on and like she goes before the committee, it's like we should probably trust her. We should put some like air inside of like she might know what she's talking about.
Yeah.
She's not a criminal. She's not crazy. She's not like, okay, she's dealt with this. Like, this could be a serious thing.
Yeah.
So, yeah, it's, we're introduced to these characters and they don't really do anything.
Was there anything else about episode 1 that stood out to you?
I like the practical effects of seeing, like, Hera on screen.
Yep.
Like, that was a good actress choice. Again, didn't have enough to do. I think we got some Chopper in that, didn't we? Like
I can't recall.
A little bit of Chopper being Chopper. And we're name dropped Thrawn again and Ezra. So we kind of get a plot going, but like, wasn't a big fan of Sabine.
Other thing I want to say that stood out was Ahsoka fighting the HK bots at the beginning. I enjoyed that. It was a good fight.
That was a really good start to the series.
Yep.
The
bomb was super overpowered. I felt though. Like, those 4 HK units were packing that much power. Yeah. You just go in there and blow up. Like,
it's
send one in after to pick up the bomb.
There's some neat like concept art after the fact and stuff, and just around it. Like, those are good fights. Like that was fun, and we saw that movement with her when she throws the sabers down and spins and cuts them. I was so expecting that to come up again in the series.
Yeah. Would have been great to wrap the beginning to the end.
Right at the end when, let's say we had an endless wave of zombie-like characters and like, hey, it'd be cool to throw out my sabers and spin in a circle and cut a bunch of stuff in half.
That would be so cool.
So that was pretty memorable, but past that, I mean, like, it was good. Let's keep it going.
So part 2, Toil and Trouble. This one for me was probably my least favorite episode out of everything. This one felt very boring and very filler to me, like right off the hop. We go to that shipyard and it's all the ex-Imperials working. You can tell something's off right from the beginning. They go upstairs, they see this thing that they question, which is a giant hyperdrive piece for the, what is it, the Ring of Sion?
Yeah.
Eye of Sion, which we see later in the episode, but then Ahsoka has her fight with Merrick, and
so we're introduced to this Merrick character.
Yeah.
And it's like, okay, we've just met Shin and Balin. Those are the villains, right? And then we get this Inquisitor, and it's like, Well, I guess he's the villain now.
Mm-hmm.
So we've got Morgan, the mercenary Jedi, and this Inquisitor. But there's no reveal with that. It's like,
and there was so many theories and stuff bouncing around online that the hype got real for it to be very let down. Which in the next episode he dies and just puffs away into smoke.
yeah. And I realize we do this as ourselves, as a fan base.
Yeah,
Like we work ourselves up over this stuff.
Yeah,
like the Captain Enoch that we see later. Like he has a few moments and everyone goes crazy, but yeah, I feel like if it's a troll, then why troll the fans? Okay, so that was episode 2, Toil and Trouble. So part 3 is Time to Fly. So we haven't really touched it. The Ahsoka Sabine dynamic. How do you feel about that?
So I don't have any like history to it, right?
So you're the perfect person to ask them in the context of this show, seeing them in this state. How do you feel about them? How did you feel about their?
So I feel about Sabine now how I felt about Ahsoka when 2008 Clone Wars came out.
Okay.
I don't like her. I feel like she's arrogant. I feel like she's not deserving of the Force. I feel like I don't like her character, so it's hard for me to like her being paired with one of my favorite characters, especially being her Padawan. And that's exactly how I felt with Ahsoka. I was like, I don't like this little kid, so she does not deserving to be the chosen one's Padawan. And I feel like we could do better with Sabine.
I'm jumping around here, but the first episode, our introduction to Sabine, for the average viewer, really wasn't the best.
No, she screws Ahsoka over.
She's supposed to go to this She's supposed to go to this ceremony.
Yeah.
And she bails on it to ride a speeder bike, and it introduces E-wings to the lore, which that was amazing. That was so exciting. But like, that's like a tease. Like the E-wings don't do anything.
Mm-hmm.
We show them as like glorified traffic cops, essentially.
Yeah.
And then Sabine, like, it's just not that cool riding them like in the whatever.
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't like, you know what I mean?
Yeah, that part's boring.
It's super boring. There is so much filler that is like, it's just not adding to these characters. If anything, it's just like I'm uninterested in them. So I don't know. I had a tough time with, maybe it was the actors together. Like I don't know what it was. But like I wasn't a big fan of their interactions at first. Like I kind of like.
Again, I'm like, how are you just gonna screw over Ahsoka and then ask for her respect? And I realize that's part of Ahsoka's training is like she needs to forgive.
Yep.
But so Sabine's the perfect one for her because Sabine's going to test her abilities to forgive and forget and do what be better than what she's done before with Sabine and Anakin when she left Anakin.
And they don't really address that, like, she could become a Jedi. Like they just kind of say that she has no Force power. So you're almost like, why is Ahsoka doing this?
Mm-hmm.
Whereas if they said what they did at the end, like essentially anyone can like reach out to the Force, you know what I mean, and become this, like that should have maybe been the starting point. So like we knew that she could get there eventually with the right training, but it's just going to be so difficult, and that's what's pushing Ahsoka, because we just kind of assume like, oh, why is she wasting her time? Like why do we even care?
And Sabine's not young, so if Sabine has to take 20 years to train, are we as fans going to wait 20 years to see Sabine train? Like, I don't really want to. Like, we did with Ahsoka. You know what I mean? I'm like, it took us 10 years to like Ahsoka.
Yeah.
I don't want to do that again with Sabine. Like, she's also... So she doesn't feel like a Jedi to me. She doesn't feel like a Mandalorian to me. She feels out of place as a Padawan. She doesn't feel good with Ahsoka.
She doesn't have an identity.
She's whiny.
Yeah.
I don't know what her dynamic is with Ezra. I hate how she backstabbed Ahsoka like twice. She does it in the first episode and then back in episode 4. Yeah. Like, she backstabs her again. And then at the end when she's like, oh, I'm going to redeem myself by staying here on Peridia with you. Like, I'm like, no, go, leave, go with Ezra. Just get back to the galaxy. Go back to your little tower with your Loth cat and... Like why you leave your cat? You're a terrible person. Why'd you leave your cat? Like,
that thing is dead.
Yeah.
Like, what was I don't get the growth for her. That like, what did she learn that allowed her to use the Force? that she had to be in a desperate, life-threatening situation to like do it. So anyone in that moment could reach out and
I
like.
hate that. I hate that
There
so
should have been
much.
some inkling that she, because there was like the moments, with the glass and where she's gonna move things. There should have been some identity that she could do it, and then it's like, how much could she do? So anyone can just do a saber pull, like.
Is this the episode where she fights? That's the next one.
Yeah. So 4 is probably the best episode, or one of the better ones of the season, I find. So we get the big fight between, um, the rematch, I should say, between Sabine and Shin.
Yep.
We get the big fight against Ahsoka versus Balin.
Merrick too.
And yes, we get a resolution to the Merrick. So we see, I kind of get that, like, okay, Merrick was used to be like Ahsoka takes him down. Like in the previous fights, like there was no need for her. She's kind of like testing her enemy, and like the enemy's like also kind of trying to figure out how do I take down this Jedi? Like, what is her weakness? When push came to shove, and Ahsoka was in a rush, she destroyed Merrick very easily, very sound. The resolution that it was like, we didn't know at that time, but like Night Sister magic, like it's not like, kind of disappointing.
And like, yeah, to me,
didn't need
very
to be
disappointing.
Anything crazy, but like, so he was just nothing, and there's no like, no one acknowledges that, no one says anything. It's just like, it's almost left. They leave things open in case they want to change things later. It's like, have a backbone. Be like, that was a fallen Jedi, or like, just do something. You know what I mean?
I like how you said they didn't acknowledge, like she didn't acknowledge his death. We didn't see her doing anything to bring Merrick to life. Like, we didn't see her in the background holding a spell together, or anything like that. Like, why? Yeah, why didn't they acknowledge that?
Yeah, it's I like this some of the lore that we get in this series, that like, the Night Sisters magic is like the Jedi using the Force, but they use it in their own capacity for things. Resurrecting, keeping these spirits together, summoning the sword. Like, I kind of like that we're seeing this, but there's not enough explanation to it. Like, Merrick was, oh hey, a fallen Inquisitor that like we've brought back, or like, you know what I mean? It just.
So Ahsoka kills Merrick. Turns out Merrick's nothing. Shin and Sabine, though, that fight was very all over the place. And then, did Sabine use the Force? What happened there?
I think she reached out to try and use it, and then Shin used it against her.
Shin definitely used it against her, but like, so Shin flinched. But was that because she thought Sabine had the Force, or was that because Sabine got like a off on her? You know what I mean?
There could have been an acknowledgement of that. You know what I mean? Like, I felt that, or something, because you're right. Like, was that okay? Hey, like,
because we hear the sound, don't we?
But it could have just been like a musical cue. Tough to say, but I mean, it's it feels ungained when she pulls a saber at the end and saves her life, or when she throws Ezra. Like, they don't feel like we've gotten to that point. Like, she's trying to move rocks, or she is doing something. You know what I mean? To signal that, okay, she can do it. She just needs to get stronger. She goes 0 to Super Saiyan instantly.
Sabine.
Yeah.
That's like, so that's what I mean by like, it was all over the place, because like, in the first episode, she gets whooped, and now
she's a fighter, and she's trained with a darksaber, so she can stand something, but she gets beat.
So she gets whooped. She even gets flipped over. Like, at one point, Shin dodges her, grabs her hands, and just flips her on her back. Like, she got dummied. So starts out with her guns, gets blown into the tree, loses her helmet, pulls out her saber.
Loses her helmet way too easily.
Yeah. Oh, so what's that? You tell me you don't have a strap? You don't have a strap?
She's constantly losing her helmet.
You're a Mandalorian, you don't have a strap? Like, Din gets picked up by his head.
Constantly. Her helmet comes off like it's an accessory.
Yeah.
It's just like constantly.
So her helmet comes off, and then, like you said, pulls out her lightsaber, and she's automatically on another level and can withstand her own for quite some time against Shin. Pretty much the entire battle. Sorry, the entire time from Ahsoka leaving the forest, going to Balin, having the conversation with Balin, fighting Balin, getting beat by Balin, and then Shin comes back. I'm like, that's a good time for Sabine to be holding her own against the girl who dummied her in 30 seconds 2 days ago.
And isn't she recovering from like a hole in her abdomen?
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. She should have just died, too. Good point.
Like,
Totally forgot that.
These injuries aren't substantial. Like, Reva takes all these, in Kenobi and keeps going. You're minimizing the effect of this stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Like, Sabine should be out of commission for a while.
Yep.
Not now holding Shin to a level. The Ahsoka Balin fight is really quite entertaining because it's the first time I really kind of felt a Jedi knight. Like that was
well said.
An Arthurian like knight in armor, broad like the way he fights like he feels like and like you could take that Balin character, replace that lightsaber with a broadsword and put him on a horse and like it's a Game of Thrones, sequel. It was really cool and the Ahsoka, Ronin samurai was very emphasized. So you got to see that fight.
Yeah.
It's kind of like, remember that show back in the day, like The Deadliest Warrior?
Yep.
This was, knights
this was
versus
Star
samurai.
Wars. Yeah, good point.
And it showed you that, like, inherently she couldn't win against this guy. Mm-hmm. Like, so he would have been stronger, to Anakin's level almost. You know what I mean? Like, he's a master that fought during this war. Now he's tapped into, like, a darker energy. So he's, like, really strong. And, like, yeah, he is a physical brute. And he just tosses her around this episode.
Yeah.
She is completely on the defensive. But there's some writing in the story and, like, how she, like, has to grab the map by her hand and burn herself.
Mm-hmm.
I like, she's fighting with one hand so she can get that. And then she burns it and she has to, like, come on.
So you do or don't like that?
I don't like that she burned herself. But, like, that's part of the writing.
Mm-hmm.
I like that the mentality was she needed a free hand to do something. But, like, the fact that she, like burning her and she's like still touching, she's like it's hot, and it's like,
to me in my mind during that moment I thought kind of like when you're a kid and they're like, don't grab the hot handle because you on like a door if your house is on fire because you won't be able to let go.
Yeah,
that was the instant thing that came to mind. I was like, oh, she's stuck. Or like electric, you get tased, you like lock up, something like that.
I feel like the second she felt the heat, she should have been able to like just pull a stone with like the force and like knock the map down or something. But okay, I get that we had to really weaken her because then we had to put her on the defensive, and that was the writing. That was like, okay, we had to give her some sort of handicap, so then he can beat her, and we feel like, well, that's why. And like, so he kills her. Is that what we take it from?
We don't know, or I don't know.
So no one knows. We all watch the show, and no one knows. Knocks her off the.
Which shouldn't have killed her. To me, she didn't die. Because we didn't see a lightsaber pierce her, which wouldn't have signified death anyways. We didn't see her head get cut off. We didn't see anything of that sort. We saw her fall off a cliff.
So she lands in the water because when she wakes up, she's in water, right?
Mm-hmm.
So is it that whole thing that World Between Worlds is like, that's a dream or something? Or that's like her like literally being there in her mind? Or did she like drown in the water? Because like, isn't that what the World Between Worlds is like more tangible than?
Ezra pulled Ahsoka into the World Between Worlds, right?
Yes.
Did Anakin pull Ahsoka into the World Between Worlds here?
Oh, that's a good point. But is Anakin like manifest enough to do that? Because Ezra was.
Right. Well, Anakin's the chosen one. He is the Force.
Luke was the chosen one.
No, Anakin's definitely the chosen one.
I think Luke might be the chosen
one. I'm pretty sure George Lucas said Anakin was the chosen one. We'll have to talk about that too.
That's a conversation for another time.
He's the chosen one. So like, yeah, you can definitely, if anyone could manipulate the Force, it would be a Skywalker like that. So I think it would be cool if Anakin pulled Ahsoka into the World Between Worlds, maybe right as she hit the water or as she hit the water, but that also would have been cool to see.
Yeah.
To have this lesson. But also, I wanted to ask you we're getting into the next episode here, but so end of episode 4, I don't think she dies. Okay. I think she's pulled into the World Between Worlds, just like in Rebels.
Okay, so I like that. I like that.
but maybe not physically by a being, guided there by the Force, but the Force being Anakin.
I like that. And then the episode finishes with Sabine essentially like kind of, we don't know where her head's at, but she turns on, essentially she goes against Ahsoka again, thinking that Ahsoka's dead. And now this is the only way, like, hey, like Ahsoka's gone, I have to see Ezra. This is the only thing I can do. But like Balin very easily could have just like offed her there.
Yeah.
But it's never even made clear, because like then he brings her as like a prisoner and just to give to Thrawn, just for Thrawn to give away.
Mm-hmm.
What was the point of that?
After Thrawn was like, she's gonna be very useful, and then literally just went against him.
Like, again, Disney needs to go dark with the shit. It should have been like if Thrawn saw her, like he's been in exile for all these years, like he should have just like bang.
Yeah.
Oh, that felt so good.
Yeah.
Oh, I can't wait to go do Ezra. Oh wait, I've already killed Ezra, because that's the first thing I would have done, because like
he brought me here.
Yeah. So we'll talk to that, but yeah, so that episode, and then it ends with the cliffhanger that Ahsoka sees Anakin.
Mm-hmm.
So it gets us ready for episode 5, or chapter 5, part 5, Shadow Warrior.
So this is my biggest love-hate with the show.
Yeah.
So this, for me, was my favorite episode, and not my least favorite episode, but it was my favorite episode and also not my favorite episode, because what it could have been, which we talked about with a lot of the movies and the shows, was next level. We could have went into the world between worlds, and like, here's what I would have done, right? Instead of going back to the Clone Wars, I would have went and visited different points in time in Star Wars through the window and talked about it. Just Anakin and Ahsoka talking. And go back to the moment when she left and be like, well, why'd you do this? Explain it to me.
Now yeah, and actually, that's a great point.
Walk to the next window. Okay, your turn, Anakin. Why'd you do this? Explain it.
Because what do we get from that? So the point of this whole Ahsoka show is we're supposed to see this growth. So this is the big episode where we're understanding what made her and how she's going to grow out of it. But there really isn't that much that we see of either.
No, there's very little talking. Like, we could probably memorize everything from that episode, but in dialect between them in that day. Like, there was very, very little talking between them, and that's what really bugged me about the episode. I will never not be happy seeing Hayden Christensen again.
Oh, come on.
Like, you can't give me enough of that.
Clone War armor.
Seeing Rex. Like, everything amazing.
But when you look at the context of that, like, we talked about that, the volume, that, like, battle was terrible. You couldn't see anything. You know what I mean?
Yeah, how cool would it have been if that fog wasn't there?
The bridge scene, you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
But again, it doesn't really, it's kind of just fan service. I know it talks about, like, her and, like, she's, the legacy is that, like, death, you know what I mean? And, like, she's trying to avoid that. But, like, yeah, maybe touch on it a little bit more. Like, that just seemed like it was for the fans without any real sustenance to, like, what was going on behind it.
Yeah. And we're going to talk about the Siege of Mandalore, but we're not going to bring up Darth Maul. Darth Maul was the Siege of Mandalore.
Like, she could have just addressed it, like, I beat a Sith Lord here.
Why didn't we see stuff in the smoke? Like, remember in the old Clone Wars when Anakin's going through all the dreams and he sees, like, the visions of Vader in the clouds and stuff? Why didn't we have that?
That's a great,
This is what happened. And like you said, open it up. Like, give us, even in the clouds, looking at it in the distance, like, all the troopers running by and the Mandos and the troopers coming together and fighting, and Darth Maul and her in, like, you know what I mean?
Crazy stuff. I want to even almost see, like, her reaction to Anakin at the temple.
That's
like
exactly what I want to see.
Her seeing, like,
And she asks him, Anakin, what happened? And he goes, well, you lost the fight. I was like, oh, no way you just replied with that. Like, to me, Anakin, what happened was, why'd you do everything you did?
That's good.
Like, what the hell? What happened? Why are we here now? What happened? Why did you do this? Like, because they never talked, right? Like, Anakin sent her off to Siege of Mandalore, and that was it.
The next she knows is in Rebels. She discovers it's Anakin when she cuts his mask, and then he's dead. So you're telling me that again, even post route, like there was no like going after Vader. Like you're just gonna walk away from that. Like I gotta go find Thrawn now.
And why did we not see her and Luke have a conversation? Like, where are these conversations? This is what's
I know it's
really
like
bugging
so
me.
in Mandalorian we get that idea that they talk, but it's like sometimes I want to see not even the story but the reaction to these characters.
Exactly.
You know,
Ahsoka reacting, Anakin reacting to her asking, and then Ahsoka reacting, Anakin explaining himself, right? Like, she doesn't know what happened. She left.
like that could have been her reveal to the dark side, seeing him like slaughtering like the Jedi in the temple, like his friends, his team. So, I feel like some of the stuff was it's all fan service, but some of it was like, yeah, seeing Rex, hey, that's super cool in live action, but like, why were we seeing any of this stuff?
Why wasn't it Tamora Morrison? You've already got him hired for all these different projects. You're gonna put Rex on screen and not show me his damn face?
Because it might be something like that. It might be like it's to do the faces. Then they've got to credit him and this and that, and he needs someone. So many. I don't know what it is because it's like
this Disney we're talking about.
Yeah,
make it happen.
So the Anakin Ahsoka fights are fun. Kind of the reveals, like some of the imagery, like the flashing, like we get it. Like Vader is Anakin, like I get it. It was cool seeing like the saber kind of switch and like the fighting styles. Like he'd have Vader's saber and he'd have.
I loved that. I love that. Seeing, and that for me too was like, okay, he's become the Force. He's got the light and the dark, and he can do what he wants with it now.
Well, yeah. So the fights were good. I felt like there could have been so much more. The young actress that played Ahsoka was good. The head thing feels weird.
Yeah.
So then she comes out of this in part 5. Sorry, part 6. Far, far away.
One more thing I want to mention about part 5. Jason.
Yes, I forgot about that.
Mom, they're in the water. I hear lightsabers. Like, what the hell was that? Like, has he had any Jedi training?
No.
Has Ahsoka spent any time with this kid?
Why not? Like he's Force sensitive.
Like, why didn't we see Ahsoka be like reaching out to him or reaching out to somebody?
If you want to train someone, why not train the kid who's like his father was a Jedi?
How can he hear these lightsabers in the water? Like, are they not in the world between worlds? Like,
so that's it. He could hear the world. Like, so we take it that she was pulled from the water in between the world between worlds.
Yeah,
and that's what he could hear. But it was like,
I didn't like that very much. And then,
wouldn't it have been cool if like maybe Luke was there or someone that had like a higher level of Force power?
Wouldn't it have been cool if she just blasted out of the fucking water and jumped back up on the hill and was like, I'm back. Like,
yeah,
I just had my moment. You know what I mean? Like, the world between worlds, if I'm not mistaken, could probably just spit you out anywhere in time too. So why would you not just spit yourself out on top of the cliff? Like, why do you need to get pulled out of the water, half dead?
Those things get messy, and like, yeah, so they leave themselves open to these plot holes and these errors.
She didn't come out of that stronger than she went in. It didn't feel like.
Why did we care about Jason in the context of the Ahsoka TV series? What was he to us? Mm-hmm. Nothing. In the context of the Rebels, like he's Jason's in Hera's son, or Kanan's, sorry, in Hera's son. That's cool, but like this, he meant nothing to us.
Yeah,
he
like was just. They don't even mention Kanan.
We have like 2 lines about him. We see a picture of him. Like, there should have been more. Like, I get that. I think the actor Freddie Prinze Jr. said that he didn't want to do a live action, but like something,
yeah,
a look-alike from the backside or something, like a remake live action shot of his death. You know what I mean?
So we understand.
Something like Kanan wears a friggin' mask for, you know what I mean? Like, you couldn't have found someone just to wear the mask, or like something.
Anyways, on to 6.
Okay, so 6 is Far, Far Away. So this is like Ahsoka the White. So this is like Lord of the Rings. Ahsoka's come back, and now she's, yeah. So it's weird seeing her without the strap. We do kind of see the character that we really want to see at this point. Like, she's a little bit more of the Ahsoka we know. She's smiling, she's quirping. So this is Night Sister Mothers. So were the Night Sister Mothers on Peridia?
Yeah.
So Thrawn found them.
I'm guessing.
So does that mean they don't know that essentially the Empire, which was the Republic, killed all of them on Dathomir?
They would have to know it.
So he's taking them to Dathomir? Like, is this probably not going to go
So,
too well?
You didn't play Fallen Order, right?
No.
The Night Sisters think the Jedi killed them. Palpatine tricked them into thinking the Jedi killed them. At least Merrin thinks the Jedi killed her.
Okay.
Merrin's the one,
yes, I know,
the one Night Sister left. So, and
there's always one more, right?
Yeah.
She's like,
and she tells Cal, "I can't trust you because the Jedi killed." And Cal was like, "What? Like, no, the Empire killed."
Yeah, but that's what that messy thing that the Jedi were the Republic, and then they were enemies of the Republic, and so there's a lot of like unanswered stuff there.
Mm-hmm.
So these great mothers, they are great mothers, have like these crazy abilities. Like they're able to like use the Force in this way, and I kind of liked all that, like with the ball, and like, and
they're like Mother Talzin.
But they can pinpoint at where Ezra is on the planet.
Yeah.
So why haven't we? So sorry, Thrawn is revealed in.
Is it the last episode or no? It's this episode. I'm pretty sure.
Yeah, so I think we get the. Yes, this is where we get
the Purgo come. We arrive on Peridia.
Yeah.
We land.
So Thrawn, let's just.
Thrawn.
How do you feel about Thrawn?
So other than the way the actor looks, I'm very happy with it.
So, and it's something that because I understand and I absolutely agree with your point. Like he's supposed to be like a martial artist and like maybe
he's supposed to be lanky, bro, and he's not lanky. He's chubby and like, yeah, I'm like, you get paid all this money to look the part. Look the part.
And it's funny because I was on the other end where I was like, I'm okay with it and body positivity, but it's funny in this instance, like he is supposed to be a threatening, looming figure, like this intimidating stance, where Balin gives that off, and like that was done with armor. Thrawn did not feel that way, and in like the old Star Wars games for PC, like the scenes you see him sitting down or whatever, like he fills out. He's got a big stature. He's
intimidating.
Yeah. So I think maybe that's one thing that I have kind of changed my mind on. And listen, I'm not a lean or body positivity, all that, but like for this guy, like maybe he should have been like not just lean, but like maybe a little like.
So, and I'm not shaming anybody. Like I'm not fit at all. But like, I think you should always try to be your best self. But this dude's old. Right? Like he's old. He's not a young dude. I don't expect him to be like jacked or look that part, but I expect Disney to do something about that then. Because like if he can't do what but that's BS because like you've got Arnold Schwarzenegger who's still jacked.
People are different and I get what you're saying like
I'm not mad at him for I'm mad at him for not getting in shape because you get paid a certain like there's a reason Chris Hemsworth isn't fat. There's a reason Tom Holland isn't fat.
So you there should have been an ideal body set in mind. Yes. Like, hey, your guy's 78, 80, he's in this, like, this is what he should look like.
And why is Thrawn so old?
Because he was old. He was, like, older in Rebels. And,
like, but we don't know what alien lifespan is.
Yeah, it's like Grogu. He's 50 and, like...
Why is Thrawn so old? Like, the first live action you're going to give us Thrawn, he's not even going to be scary?
Well, so I think that's part of that, like, hey, we want to reuse a voice actor. Because... that was a voice actor from Rebels, and he's fantastic.
Mm-hmm.
But, yeah, he is getting old. So, I mean, it's this fine line of...
I want to see Thrawn kick someone in the face. I think that'd be pretty cool. I don't think this guy can kick anyone in the face. You know what I mean?
Yeah. So, no, I agree with you there. That, maybe not as intimidating as I was hoping for. The reveal of the stormtroopers in that armor is really cool. They're called night troopers, right?
Yes.
Really neat. So what, zombies? We find out later they're zombies, but like they can speak, so I can say Thrawn.
So are they zombies? Or are they troopers, they die, and then they become zombies?
But I think at some point, it's like, how did you know that happens? because they're probably, and that's why like their armor's all beat up
Mm-hmm.
because they've probably been. And again, Prettiest should have been like, okay, bad example here, but like Avatar, like lush jungle planets or like crazy visual effects where like everything's trying to kill you. So like these stormtroopers are beat the shit up because like just day to day finding supplies for them
Mm-hmm.
is insane.
Yeah. And then Thrawn is obviously not on Peridia when they arrive because the Night Sister's like, he'll be here soon. And then shows up in a massive ship. Where's Thrawn? They're in a whole nother galaxy. Why didn't you show us on another planet?
Yeah, you're right. So it's like, yeah, Pretty was her big letdown.
How friggin' cool would it have been at the end of the first episode? We see Thrawn in his throne, like on the back of that picture or whatever,
Yeah.
on that old game where he's cross-armed, one leg up like this, and he's got his like things behind him, and he's like, we're coming back. And that's it. And he's on some planet and it zooms out and like out of the window of the ship and prepare for takeoff. And you see all the troopers gathering all the supplies, like you said,
And that's it. That's all you see.
That'd be so cool.
Almost, it was like the original Boba Fett. The less you saw, the better.
Yeah.
And like it could just be that intimidating shot, and you're like, this guy's fucking like.
Mm-hmm.
And you could have like had something cool where like, yeah, you go to the stormtroopers that are loading up, and like one of them has a blaster bolt, and like you see that like.
Yeah.
There was a lot of stuff that happened that like, he didn't seem like a tactical super genius in the show. And it just seemed like he was making better decisions, but like Moff Gideon seemed like, he was really up to
on
some
that
shit.
level. Yeah.
Like Thrawn just wasn't like. Well, I'm disappointed I didn't hear this. Maybe we did, but the Thrawn theme, I don't remember it.
Yeah, it doesn't come to.
So that it's dark and imposing, and like, yeah, he should have just shown up, and like there was no sending troops to go fight the Jedi, and this happens, and then we're gonna bomb the planet, and all our turbo lasers can't hit jack shit, and then we're gonna blow this up, and then we're gonna hang around long enough that like these Force users who can jump can like, you know what I mean? It should have just been like they show up and they leave.
I don't think we've gotten a real adaptation of Thrawn in any canon event, though.
Well, I mean, there's Timothy Zahn wrote 2 versions of Thrawn, didn't he?
The books, good point. Yeah.
So
the,
you know what?
The new one's not bad.
So we're never gonna get the it happens a lot of this medium. We're not gonna get like the real cool extended characters.
Mm-hmm.
We're not gonna get Kyle Katarn because we've got Cal Kestis.
Yeah.
So it's like, we're not gonna get real Thrawn. We have Thrawn at home.
Yeah.
But it goes back to, if this was a movie and like he had very little screen time and it was just very imposing. Or like you could have, if you really wanted, maybe a good writer could have done something where like if they really wanted to do a Clone Wars flashback, have Thrawn be in it.
Yeah. That would have been
mint. Have Thrawn and Anakin be in the Clone
Wars.
And that's part of the reveal.
Yeah.
So it's like she sees him dealing with Thrawn.
Good point.
And maybe Anakin's at his weakest right now.
Yep.
You know what I mean? Or he's starting to turn to the dark side, and like he's he's being ruthless, and you see like
when they go on their mission together in the Clone Wars, Anakin is at a very weak point because Padme's life is at stake, and he can't find her, and he's panicking, and Thrawn's doing all this stuff that Anakin doesn't understand, and
that's what you do.
Yeah.
And the lesson could be that like he's like don't be like me, unrational and like impulsive, and like look where this led me. You know what I mean? Like you are different. Be like be more of a tactic. Like that would have been really cool. And like you could have seen Thrawn do tactical stuff like really quick in a Clone Wars segment, like the way and it could just be slaughtering battle droids and people, and like no one would give a shit about. But like you could just show him being like, oh, this guy's good. But instead we just got like he seems like he's okay, like he's better than the average like Imperial general. Like his ship's beat to shit, and like he's going home, and like we don't know anything about it. Like
when you say it that way, I'm like, oh, maybe that's what they wanted.
If he got intercepted right now by the New Republic fleet, he'd be dummied in a second. That like that ISD-1 against like those New Republic, like it's over. So like give me something where like he comes back and like he has sent out the message or something, or the beacon, and he just like comes back to like a massive fleet. Comes out of hyperspace, and it's just like it's the entire Imperial remnant, and he like literally comes out and like joins the and they all just jump in.
Yeah.
And you're like, okay, cool.
Yeah. That was something we kind of briefly talked about. I don't even know if it was on or off camera, but like how it would have been better to see them do something more with Thrawn at the end in the last episode.
We had 8 episodes of 45 minutes to just get Thrawn out of the galaxy. That could have been a text crawl. That would have been a text crawl back in the day.
Yeah.
Somehow Thrawn has returned.
Yeah, that was one thing we forgot to mention right at the beginning. Did you realize how they did that? The text scroll?
And then
it was orange and it was flat. It didn't go into space. Yeah. And there was no space. It was just a black screen and orange text scroll up. Looked like I could have did that on Canva. I could have did that on Canva in 10 minutes.
I don't know if they were trying to go for like the world between worlds, or it's a strange way to do it.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and
it felt so cheap.
I get that the original filming of that text crawl was a very labor intensive shot and like took like a lot of work. Like there's probably a program out there that would do like
I could do that now. I could literally do that in 10 minutes on my phone with no graphic design. Why could they not do it now?
It excuse me. Yeah. So certain elements it felt cheap. You could have just had a really good 2-hour movie, real tight with a text scroll. Somehow Thrawn has returned to the galaxy.
Yeah. And what a way to start. Text scroll, boom, pan down, Chimera. Callback?
Yeah. You know, and you just do it. And like it's just very quick of him getting off the galaxy, you know. And then them chasing him down and them not believing. You know what I mean?
So that was 6.
That was 6. So then part 7, this is like the penultimate one, Dreams and Madness. So this is, I watched this one with Holly and I was like super giddy about it, but on like after letting it sink in, I was like, why was I so fanboy? Like, so Hera gets a disciplinary thing for not following orders, even though like she's a proven like savior of people and like
she's a hero at this point.
It's a general.
Mm-hmm.
So, you know, she gets disciplined. Mon Mothma's fantastic. I love that actress is amazing. But the C-3PO cameo, like, I was super excited, but then I was like, what's the point of this?
Yeah.
I was so excited.
Why was he there? Who was there with him?
He was on behalf of General Leia.
On behalf, okay.
Or Senator Leia, whatever it was.
Why, because we don't have holograms anymore?
Like, but Leia's gone, so what do?
We CGI. We've already got permission.
Cast her daughter. Do something. There's like there are lookalikes out there.
Yeah.
Like
there's cosplayers out there I've seen. Like they're not even trying.
If you're gonna keep the original cast, you need to recast them for this new universe because you cannot do these stories, which are Skywalker stories, without any interaction with the Skywalkers.
Yeah. That one dude looks so much like Luke, Sebastian Stan or whatever.
Yeah.
Dude, he looks identical.
Even the actor that they used before they CGI'd his face in Book of Boba Fett, Mandalorian Season 2.5, that guy's maybe just use that.
Yep.
And then maybe just keep some of the shots artistically, like, I don't know.
Yep.
You can do stuff.
Yep.
Have Hamill dub the voice, whatever it is.
So Hera gets in trouble.
Yeah, which is like, that was just a silly, like, you know, C-3PO. You know, Thrawn, what I did like in that one is that like, he discovers that Anakin was the master.
Yeah.
And that reveal where like he like takes a few moments to like pause and take it all in and like, oh, I know this person. Oh, okay, this is like a little bit more than I.
Yeah.
But it should have even played into that, like, it should have been very clear cut that like he knew how to deal with her because he knew Anakin. And it should have been like, again, I just don't like his like he, you know, shooting turbo lasers into the open field and not hitting anything. Like nothing was very smart of him. Nothing was super tactical. Like sending wave after wave of stormtroopers that fall and just get up and then losing more again. Like it seemed silly, his decisions, and it's like you didn't need to. You were trying for too much.
Yeah. So 7 confuses me. What?
So
this is when Balin ditches, right?
I believe so.
This is when Balin ditches. Shin goes and fights. Ahsoka shows up.
Yep.
That's this episode. So we meet Ezra end of episode 6. Then
That great reveal. So, yeah.
Sabine and Ezra have their moments.
So Ezra, I think, is the best casting we've seen yet.
Really? Yeah.
I think he completely embodies the character. He's just fantastic. I really, really enjoyed him. Yeah, I really enjoyed his character. I thought the actor was fantastic. I thought he really felt like he left off the screen. He was the best interpretation of a Rebels like character. And again, like if this is a Rebels TV show, like it should have been all of them. Why didn't we have Zeb? There wasn't enough interaction between all these members. Like this should have been a very traumatic event that like they still talk about and like they still stay in touch. So I felt that like the last few episodes kind of went downhill.
They definitely did.
You know, it just kind of puttered out. It was just like kind of like there was like a bell curve to this episode. Like nothing was great, but nothing was terrible. And it just kind of ended on these like poor notes.
I remember we talked shortly after episode 7 came out, and I wasn't very happy with 7 because it felt very filler again to me. It felt very much like episode 2, just filler. And then episode 8, we start off action packed, storming Thrawn's castle or Night Sister Castle, whatever we're going to call that.
I love this episode. So part 8, the Jedi, the Witch, and the Ward.
I also Warlord. Yeah, I love the name of it. So Jedi, who do you think Jedi is?
It's Ahsoka, isn't it?
Is it? Or is it Ezra?
Okay.
The Witch is...
Or the Jedi could be plural, because it could be referring to...
True.
And then, Sabine as well.
The Witch is obviously Morgan.
Yep.
The Warlord, though.
Thrawn.
Is this Thrawn?
Yeah.
Or is it Balin?
Well, again, it goes to this, like, we don't have a resolution on it.
I think Thrawn, Ahsoka, and Elsbeth, but I've seen other people say, like, is it Ahsoka? Or is it Sabine now?
Yeah.
Or is it Ezra? And then is the Warlord Thrawn, or is the Warlord Balin?
And again, we didn't get enough of that, where we didn't get enough of, like, what made Thrawn so, like, is he a warlord? Is he this? Yeah, I like the director for this episode. He's done some really good Mandalorian stuff. It's not a strong season finale. So, like, again, you felt the narrowness of the volume, the stage that they fight on. You know, I've said about it, like, all the fights are very, like, enclosed rooms, enclosed spaces. Thrawn just didn't seem that strong. Like, he couldn't shoot something, like, his Star Destroyer couldn't hit something from space. Like, weird. You know what I mean?
Meanwhile, Gideon snipes Mando's ship from out of the atmosphere. Like, yeah.
So, there was a lot of contrivances in the story, and like kind of just things that are written to keep the story going, but not a fan of them. The whole, like, she fights Balin for a brief second to, like, never see him again. Like, she essentially loses the fight. There's no, like, goes to a stalemate. Like,
for him to be like, you can't beat me.
Yeah, and then, what does the show end up with? Like, he's no better than where he is. She's no stronger. Like, I thought when she came back as, like, Ahsoka the White, like, she would have...
beaten him?
Yeah. Would have been cool if, like, she did some serious, like, damage to him. Like, I know in hindsight you could have, like, taken off his face and, like, given him a mask of some sort, and then, like, there's your actor for next season.
Yep.
The lightsabers, I'm going off that topic now, don't do enough damage. When we learn that, like, these stormtroopers... I like the scene where the three of them are deflecting in that. I don't like that scene the way it's filmed, but I like that you see that she as deflecting like she was in her training. Ezra is great with one blade, and then Sabine is, like, missing them. And they're, like, hitting her in the head, or she's, like, putting them into the ground. She can't, like, hit, like,
knock them back.
Yeah, I enjoyed that theory. That shot could have been so much better. But then when you discover the stormtroopers can come back from the dead, why are you not dismembering them? And it's like the Disney violent stuff. It's like, because they sell lightsabers now, so can't have something that is violent, can't have a weapon.
Yeah.
No, these are Jedi.
Yeah.
Start cutting those things down in droves. Like, you could have done some really, really cool scenes of, like, there's just 100 stormtroopers, and she is just like 4 or 5 at a time, just like like, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And you're feeling the gravity, and like the fact that's overwhelming is like they just keep coming, and they're undead.
Yeah.
So even the undead ones are, because like what is an undead stormtrooper versus just a large army of stormtroopers? They just keep coming. You know what I mean? So have the dead be something like, yeah, they're cutting them in half to try and kill them, and like they're still crawling.
They don't care.
Yeah, you know what I mean? So kind of neat things, and like we see the death troopers with the skulls, like, okay, it's a reference to that book.
Yep. Red Harvest.
The Sabine using the Force, was completely undeserved.
Mm-hmm.
There was no, it just happened, and it was so unceremonious, and like it, pulls the saber and then throwing Ezra onto the ship.
Yeah.
Come on.
That bugged me a lot, because she went, like, her confidence went from, okay, I pulled the saber, to,
I can throw you.
I'm going to risk your entire life.
Yeah. It's, and again, so where does the show end? Ezra comes back. That's so stupid. So he walks off the shuttle. How did Thrawn not realize that the shuttle was the...
Or the Night Sisters.
How? Why didn't Shin go back with them? Like, you know what I mean? Like,
lazy writing.
Shin should have left with them. Because didn't Balin say, like, go join your new empire?
Yeah.
So she should have gone back with them.
Yeah.
That should have been the... when she goes back to the galaxy with Thrawn, and, like, she's Thrawn's
minion. Yeah. That would have been awesome.
So, and then Ezra shows up in the Republic ship. The Republic ship just had a bunch of fake Jedi show up and kill everyone. And then a stormtrooper gets off, and they're just like, well, hold your fire.
Yeah.
Why wasn't Ezra at least not wearing the helmet? Like, it could have been the reveal that, like, he didn't have clothing, so he just, like, walked down, and he's just, like, he's got the helmets off, but, like, the smoke is there. He walks down in full stormtrooper armor. You're telling me you flew back in that?
Yeah.
What is wrong with, like, that's, like, lazy writing.
Lazy writing.
So, at the end of this, we've kind of gone around a few times, but I think the show had a lot of potential for like what could have been, but it was just played very safe. It was just produced to enjoy week to week. Like, hey, give us more, give us just keep us going a little bit more. Don't answer any questions.
It's a setup show,
and leave it on even more questions.
Yep.
Balin with the the gods of Mortis there in Peridia.
Yep.
Ahsoka being in a different galaxy that it doesn't really feel any different than the galaxy we were in.
Yep.
There's no real threat.
Do you think this is all leading to Abeloth?
I don't know what it's leading towards.
Good point.
There's not a lot of time in between like this to the new series.
Yeah.
So unless they plan on doing something, we've talked about it, where like they rewrite or change a timeline with the World Between Worlds, what do they do in that timeline to like have a big threat? Do they bring in something like the Grisk or the Yuzon Vong, or like a newer enemy? Are they going to do a second Galactic Civil War?
If they want to save Star Wars, they're going to have to change something up.
They're gonna do some more. So, yeah. So I think it was a good series. In that, like, I enjoyed some of,
like, visually appealing.
Yeah, some of the design had some neat aspects, but
nothing was too crazy.
Yeah, it was just played safe.
No memorable moments. Memorable moment. Nothing that stood out too crazy, like we were talking about at the beginning. Like,
so my pantheon, like, so even going back to our original ratings, yeah, I mean, I had, maybe to me, even Ahsoka is not as good as Mandalorian Season 3. I think it's probably better than Kenobi, because I think Kenobi was a big letdown. Better than Book of Boba Fett. But, yeah, I think maybe I would change that my original one. Say that, Season 3 of Mandalorian at least answered some stuff, even if they weren't great answers, or, like, tried getting us some resolutions, where this just kind of played it safe for the next one. So.
Yeah.
Well, until the next one.
Follow for more.